Hey y'all, it's Justin here again, and in this fourth installment of my AT gear video series, I'm going to be talking about my first aid and hygiene setup. So as you can probably imagine, hiking over 2,000 miles means that I'll probably get a little dirty and a little smelly from time to time, but there's also a very good likelihood that I could find myself injured at some point or another. So the setup that I'm about to show you will include all the things that I'll be carrying along to just allow me to practice some form of self-care. So I'm starting off with personal hygiene. There are certain things that I do just in my everyday life, which I will continue to do on the trail. That includes brushing my teeth. So I picked up this little toothbrush from Target, which is collapsible and it's super lightweight. So I'll just be carrying this little toothbrush. And of course, I will have a little tube of toothpaste with me as well. And in an effort to keep my mouth and gums as clean as possible and to prevent tartar buildup, I will also be carrying a little thing of floss because I do floss every day and I hope you do as well. So while I'll be focused on keeping my teeth and mouth clean, I also definitely want to make sure that I'm keeping my hands clean, specifically when I'm ready to eat something. So I'll be carrying just a small bottle of camp soap. One little drop of this soap really goes a long way and it does give a nice effective clean. So I will be keeping a bottle of some soap with me at all times. So another thing that I'll be paying at least a little bit of attention to is dry skin, specifically on my hands and feet and also on my lips. So in order to combat that, I will be carrying just a little thing of Vaseline. Now, a tip that I picked up from my friend Monica, who successfully hiked the JMT last year, is to apply just a little bit of Vaseline to your feet every morning before putting on your socks and shoes. And according to her, that really helps keep the blisters away. So I will definitely be doing that. And thank you, Monica, for the tip. I'll also be applying Vaseline to my hands whenever I feel like they're getting too dry, just because I don't like when my skin cracks. And the same thing goes for my lips. When they get too dry, I'll just be applying some chapstick. And the good thing about this Bum Chapstick is that it also offers SPF 30 protection. So it's like a win-win with that. So yeah. So the last couple of items in my hygiene kit include my Deuce of Spades trowel and also my backcountry bidet. So I use these items for using the bathroom in the woods, and I've gotten so many questions from my friends and family about how exactly I use the bathroom in the woods. And the simple answer to that is I first dig a little cat hole with my trowel. I do my business in the cat hole. And after I'm done, I can pop my little bidet onto one of my water bottles, spray back there, and get myself nice and clean. And with that, I also want to mention the fact that I do not use toilet paper anymore when I go on my backpacking trips, for the simple fact that one little square of toilet paper takes at least a year to decompose, even if you bury it. And I also don't want to go through all the hassle of carrying my dirty toilet paper out because, as I always say, leave no trace. And once you pack in, you should also be packing out. So I just decided to scrap toilet paper altogether, and instead I just like to use just some dead leaves that I find on the ground or like a nice smooth rock to finish up the job if my bidet doesn't do it all. So yeah, that pretty much rounds out my hygiene kit, and now we can move on to first aid. So first up, I have this mini Victoria Swiss Army multi-tool. So this tool includes just a little knife, a nail file, a small pair of scissors, and also a little set of tweezers. This is pretty much the only tool that I've ever needed on any of my backpacking trips. So this will be the only thing that I'll be carrying on my thru hike. It's super small, it's really light, and it pretty much covers everything that I could possibly need while on my trips. So this is all I'll be carrying as far as tools go. Hold up, I take that last statement back. One other tool that I will have is just a pair of nail clippers, just to keep my fingernails and toenails at a reasonable length. So yeah, I actually have two tools, not one. If you want to count a pen as a tool, then make that 3 tools instead of 2. And wrapped around the pen, I also have some Leukotape in case I do happen to get any hot spots or blisters on my feet. Leukotape is really good about managing that. And the pen is just for writing in logbooks if I want to do that. I'd rather use my own pen than a pen that everyone has been touching, and I don't know if everyone has been cleaning their hands. And also, if I happen to get bitten by a venomous insect, it's nice to have a pen or a marker or something to be able to circle around the point of the bite. So yeah, I will also have a pen with me. So next up, I'll have just a tiny bag of over-the-counter medication. The only things I really have in here are plenty of ibuprofen, as you can see, and I also have these little Imodium pills in case I happen to have diarrhea, which might be TMI, but hey, it happens. So I think this is pretty much the only medication I'll need to carry, and if I happen to need anything else, I'll be stopping at a town frequently enough, so I'm not too concerned about it. So yeah, that's that. So to continue on with the topic of injury management, I just have a little baggie with some gauze pads in it. Pretty much if I happen to get a cut or a scrape or something, I can just take one of these gauze pads and put it over the wound and just use some Leukotape just to make a band-aid rather than carrying separate band-aids. Easy enough. And I also have this Rawlogy Cork massage bar, which I typically use to roll out my legs and my muscles at the end of the day, because there are a lot of aches and pains that come with through hiking, and I try to mitigate that as best I can without using too much medication. So this Cork massage bar really goes a long way, and it's super helpful. So along with applying first aid to myself, there may be situations where I may have to apply first aid to some of my gear. So I also packed in some repair items to use in those sort of situations. So the first thing I have is a little makeshift sewing kit. I don't know if you can see, but I actually made this little sewing kit out of an old business card, some thread, and a couple of tiny needles. So if I happen to rip a seam or get a tiny hole in something, I can just sew it up really quickly. I can also use the needle and thread to thread any blisters that I may have. Now that might not be the wisest thing to do medically, but if a situation comes up where I have a blister, I like to just thread it and let the fluid out just to sort of mitigate that discomfort. So next up, I just have a little baggie with some repair patches in it. So if I happen to get a hold in a piece of gear like my tent, my pack, my jacket, or my sleeping pad, I can easily patch those little holes up with one of these. These are lifesavers, and I will definitely be keeping at least a couple on me at all times. And the last thing I have is just some duct tape, which I keep wrapped around one of my trekking poles. If I happen to puncture something to the point where one of my repair patches won't really cover it up, I can just give it a quick fix with some duct tape. So that's gonna do it for my hygiene and first aid setup. As you can see, I keep it pretty light and minimal, and mostly everything fits into this little Ziploc bag. This is just what works for me, and I encourage everyone, whether you're going on a through hike or just a smaller backpacking trip, just to take the extra time to put together your own first aid kit. Find out what works for you rather than going to an REI and just picking up one of their pre-made first aid kits. Like, it's definitely beneficial to know exactly what you need and know exactly what's gonna help you in a time where you need it. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will catch you next time. See you later.